right, welcome to Lead, Follow, Get Out of the Way. I'm Shari Strong, the host of the show, and I am so excited to be back. It's been a couple weeks. I've been out of town, and this week, and we actually have a two-parter. So don't do it very often, but this is a two-part series because we're going to talk about relationships and what it takes to connect with others. So often, I'm sure you might have somebody in your family that kind of irritates you a little bit and you don't get along with. Well, the next one is, how about the person that you just connect with and you get everything done and you never seem to have any conflict? Well, that isn't just because of the weather. There's actually science behind who we connect with, who we don't connect with. And there's 4 personality types that we're going to talk about this week and next week. So you're not going to want to miss this. You will need a pen. I mean, I've got notes galore. So get ready. Join me after the break.
In this course, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect, we will cover the 5 principles and 5 practices to develop the crucial skill of connecting, including finding common ground, keeping your communication simple, capturing people's interest, inspiring people, and staying authentic in all your relationships. Check the calendar to see when this course will start.
Welcome to Lead, Follow, or Get Out of the Way. Man, are you ready? Because I was on fire. I've been traveling for the last 10 days, and Houston, South Dakota, Nebraska, getting to meet a lot of different people. And as I was out traveling and having this awesome experience of speaking with groups and understanding different personality types and how they work, I thought, man, I should bring this back to the show. So this is actually a 2-part series. We're going to talk and discuss the 4 types of personality types, I should say, that we fall into. And then next week, we're going to talk about identifying them out in the marketplace and what that looks like. Now, typically, this is something I take into companies, organizations. A lot of church groups hire me to come in, and it's a 3-hour class. And we're going to do this basically in less than 60 minutes between this week and next week. So I'm going to give you a high-level overview, and I get really passionate about this because I believe that 90% of all conflict in the world is just because we don't understand one another. And if we could just understand why that person does those crazy things that we don't understand or like or trust, but if you can learn about that, it makes it a lot easier. So it's kind of like when you're learning to play ball. At first, you're having trouble dribbling the ball or using your feet if you're in soccer. It's awkward, it feels weird. But once you get the process down and you understand how to do something, it's a lot easier to understand it. So with relatives, right, we may not like them all that much, but if we can understand why they do something that they do, it makes it a lot easier to deal with them. So that's what I want to share with you this week and next week is there's 4 main personality types. Now, some of you are going to be familiar with it. You might have even there's assessments out there, and I have an assessment that I offer to groups and individuals to take. And it's called the D.I.S.C profile. But I call it the all-new D.I.S.C profile because I'm going to add a little bit extra to it and a little bit of a different spin on today's world and how to use it in today's world and where you're at. So you first, to understand somebody, right, you got to understand where they come from and how they think. So I had an example this last week. I was sharing this with a church group, and these 2 women who probably didn't necessarily like each other too much ended up conversing, and they were very honest with each other and told each other what they used to think. And once they learned this was just her personality and this was just her personality, then they understood why this one was asking questions and why this one was just more of the party girl. So you have to understand that. So that's what we're going to talk about. There's 4 main personality types. So here we go. Get your pen ready, and I'm going to go around all 4 of them, tell you some traits of them. Then we'll talk about percentages, how this is important, how you can use it. And then next, so today is about you. I want you to look at this from this point of view, like which one are you? And then next week, we're going to talk about how you can identify it in other people, kind of like what makes their motor run, so you can recognize it a little bit easier. So I wish you were here, because right here with me, but I'm going to trust that you're engaged and we're just having a conversation. So here we go. So you're going to want to write down the letter D. So if I go like this, right? So the letter D, so like dominant is the first letter or the first word. So D. So D types are typically dominant types. So in the word DISC, D-I-S-C, right? So you have the word dominant. So you're going to write these D words down to help you learn this. So you're going to have to just kind of trust me here as we go through this process. And believe me, you're going to feel better at the end of it when you learn these, and you'll be able to look back at the end of the show and go, okay, I got it. So just trust me here. Let's go with it. So the first personality type we're going to discuss, and there is no right or wrong, good or bad, all right, want to make that very clear, is D's are outgoing, and there's two types that are outgoing. There's D's and I's that are more outgoing. So that's the first thing you want to learn. So D's, write these words down. Dominant, they're direct, they're demanding, they're decisive, they're determined, and they're doers. So I'm a D personality type. So if you haven't met me personally, I typically, I'm a DI, and that we'll get to the I here in a minute, but you'll understand it when I say this after we go through it. I like to tell people what to do, and then I cheer about it, okay? So D's are the doers. They get things done. They're task oriented. And in the morning, D's will have more done by 8 a.m. than most people. They're the get dones. Presidents make great D's, presidents are usually D's. D's make great presidents because they can make decisions. So when you look at past presidents, Ronald Reagan was a D. Tear down that wall. Didn't even take him any time, he got it done. Great president, many would consider. One of the greatest of all times. So people who get things done are typically D personalities. Okay, so that's D's. Now the next one is I. These are your inspiring personalities. Okay, these are your party. A lot of people, I even thought I was a higher I. When I say higher, we have an assessment that ranks you, and it tells you exactly where you are on this chart. And it's amazing to know these things, because in the past, I always thought my I was my highest trait, my D was the second, and when I found out it wasn't, it changed everything. And I'll tell you why by the end of the show. So I's, the first one is inspiring. The second word is influencing. The next one is impressionable. The next one is interactive. The next one is impressive. They're usually pretty impressive. And the next one is they're interested in people. Now, I's are the ones who, they want everybody at the party, we're gonna have fun, let's just get together. And you'll know an I when you see them, because like they talk with their hands. They get excited about everything. They also, well, I will tell you this too, they are very they want everybody at the party, and they want everybody to have fun. They even want the people that don't get along to come to the party, because they are hoping that they're going to get along eventually. So now here's the thing. Every one of these also has one character trait that isn't so awesome. So I'm going to digress for a minute. With the D's, the one word that if they get under stress or they're underneath, if they're feeling pushed back into a corner, is defiant. So if you push me in a corner and you haven't earned the right to ask me questions, or we don't have a relationship yet, I'm going to get defiant. And I had it happen just a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to tell this story. I was at a council meeting for our church, and I was asking a question about some money that was going to be appropriated. And another person who I don't have a relationship with, don't know her very well, she's a C personality type, which we're going to talk about after the break, she was just asking questions and just boom, boom. Are we going to do that? Did you send out a survey? Blah, 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 blah. Now, in front of the group, a D or an I, if they get questioned in front of a group of people and you haven't earned the right to do it, or I don't understand why you're asking the questions, I'm going to get defiant. And I even knew it. I had this information. I teach this. I was like, don't shoot the gun. Don't shoot the gun. Don't shoot the gun. And she was like, just nailing me with questions. And then I couldn't finally she's like, well, are you going to send out a survey? I turned around and I looked at her. I said, well, you didn't get one, so obviously no, we didn't. Oh, not a good thing to do, right? I have the information. I still did, right? So this isn't about fixing you, but it is about understanding who you are first. That was not a good thing. Even though I could probably justify my actions, that's not how you create relationships. So defiant, and then you have I's, the word. When they get stressed, it's called illogical. They'll start to use words like always, never, that never's gonna happen, and always happens to me when I drive down the road. There's always traffic. They'll start using extreme words. So now I'm a DI, so I turn around and said, well, obviously you didn't get one. So no, so I got defiant, and then, right, it was kind of illogical. They can get very emotional about things because they're inspiring. They're just very, they're out there. So that's why they look like they wear their feelings on their sleeves, and they let everybody know when they're happy, but they'll let everybody know when they're not. So you have to really understand, and there's no right or wrong here. But the more you can understand that, the better off it's going to be when you go out and who you are first. And next week, we're going to talk about who they are and how to identify it. Because what I do believe is the people who have this information, it's their responsibility to connect with others. So if we're going to do more in this community, in Bell County, Claiborne County, Lee County, and those of you who are watching this or have come to some of the classes or have had me come into your schools, you know that it's your responsibility to connect with others. It's not their job to connect with you. So that's your D and your I personality types. So you have dominant, and then you have the influential. You have the defiant, and then you have illogical. So when we return after the break, we're going to talk about the next two personality types. It's S and C, so it's like a clock. You go clockwise, D-I-S-C, and there's a reason for that, which we will get to next week. So after the break, we're going to talk about the S personality types and the C personality types and who you are. Which one are you? How can you benefit from this? And why this is important to connect with others. So go take a quick break, get a drink of water, but you're going to want to make sure you come back and join me after the break.
My team loved Strong Success Academy. We had fun, we learned leadership and sales skills, and we didn't bust our budget. And the Passport Club provided me with an option for additional training for my team that really supplemented our in-house programs well, and yet they could do it at their pace. Really fun way to encourage participation, the Passport Club gives miles for each module completed, and that helped us recognize our top team members quarterly along with the normal sales results. So thank you to the coaches and the trainers at the Strong Success Academy. You guys are awesome. And if you have a team out there, you need to be here.
Shari Strong with Lead Follower, Get Out of the Way. Welcome back. I hope you're learning something. And today was all about you. Just a reminder, next week it's going to be about how identifying who others are, like your children, your spouse. And I'm going to give you some examples here in this next segment. But let's continue on. So we had the D, dominant, I, inspiring. Now we're going to go down here to the bottom right-hand corner if you were putting this on a piece of paper, and that's your S. And then S is the supportive type, okay? So supportive, they're reserved and people-oriented, okay? So supportive is your first word. Second one is stable. Third one is steady. Fourth one is sweet. And by the way, this is like jeans. Maybe that not all S's are sweet. Okay, just so you know. You know, not all jeans fit perfectly. All right. So the next one is status quo. And the next one is a little bit shy. So they might be out there, but they won't, they're not going to take initiative to run the party. They might, if they're an IS, and we'll talk about this, there's different combinations. But anyway, so that's an S. So an S is supportive type. So let me give you an example. Now, for those of you who are believers, and those of you who are not, don't be freaking out right now, because I'm going to talk about the characters of the Bible. Okay, but I want to give you some, and then when I go into churches, this is what I talk about. All right, so Paul is a D. He's my favorite character in the Bible. He's like, just go do it. Trust me, right? Like that. Oh, you're gonna put me in jail? Give me something to write with. You had the Bible, right? D's, they get it done. And an example of I in the Bible is Peter. Let's all go out, do our thing, because Paul wants us to, and then we're gonna come back here, and then we're gonna have a party, and we'll talk about it. So that's Peter, right? That's an I personality. The next one then for an S, John. John was an S. Jesus asked him, hey, John, can you go take care of my mom? And by the way, her sister, keep a good watch on them. John is an S personality type. So for those of you who understand that. Now, in the secular world, we have Donald Trump's a D. Then an I, who would be an I? An I would be Ellen. Ellen's an I. You know, just party, let's dance. Ellen is definitely an I. An S would be, who would an S be? I have to think about that. Let me come back to that. An S, Jimmy Carter was an S. See, S's don't make very good presidents. Great guy, big heart. But he's always like, let's negotiate, let's have peace in the world, right? But didn't get a lot done because he just wants everybody to love each other, and it's just not that way. And what happened? Then Ronald Reagan came in and said, they were over there like, oh crap, we got a new guy. We better send the hostages back. Jimmy Carter, we'll talk about it, and maybe we'll get them back someday. I just don't want to have to hurt anybody. And we love them, but they don't make good leaders out front, because if they have to make decisions. And if they are, they better have a great vice president or somebody who can help them make decisions, or spouse, because they'll struggle. So I hope those analogies or examples would be a better word, help you identify with the different personality types. So the next one and last one in the 4 is C, like cat, okay? So C's, they're more reserved, and they're very, I'm gonna say detail oriented. So D's are more get it done oriented, they're task oriented. Like, I get things done, but I don't need to read the directions to do it. Okay, so a C, they are going to read the directions first, then they're going to do it. So that's where they're both task-oriented, but how and why is different. So a C, here we go, ready for the C words? Okay, C, cautious, calculating, competent, conscientious, so conscience, right, if you know how to spell this, conscientious, and C's, it only makes sense that all the words are long. Let me all right, contemplative, careful. So C's are going to ask the questions. So when I gave you that example earlier of the woman that was asking me, she is, when I say hi, like that's her dominant character personality trait, is a C. And she's just asking me questions, and she hasn't built a relationship with me. And I'm a D, so I'm just getting stuff done, but I'm an I. You better have a relationship with me before you start asking me a bunch of questions. She is a high C, and everything else is down here. I mean, she's just doing her job. Well, why aren't we going to do that? Are you going to do this? And blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what? What? No, don't quit asking me. C's forget to tell their face sometimes that they're happy. So the word, so an S, we always have the 2 words. So for an S, the word that, maybe isn't the best quality trait is sucker. They'll end up saying yes to help everybody. because they want to help everybody. They're supportive. And the word for C's, cold. They can come across cold and they're not even aware of it. I had a C in one of my classes. She didn't agree with me. Imagine that. She's asking me questions. Well, I don't understand this. Why would it be this? I disagree with this. I'm like, you're proving my point. They already think they know everything. So here, you need more credibility. So then I had to tell them I've been trained by Dr. Rome, who actually taught this to Zig Ziglar. Then she was like, oh, well, maybe I better listen to her now, right? So they needed the credibility. And this is really important too. If you are presenting in front of groups in your corporation, your church, you have to understand that you have to appeal to all 4 personality types. And if you're an I and you're only appealing to the I's, you're missing out on the other parts, other people in the church or your group or your company. If you're a C, C's think, D's don't think. Because we just go do. And C's are like, do they even think about what they do? They might get a lot done, but do they ever even think about it? So this is why this is so valuable. So once we got to know each other and I understand. So the woman who I was telling you about, she even left that class and they gave them an assignment to identify a D, an I, an S, and a C when they were out in the public. See if they could identify them. And then they were to come back the next week and we were going to talk about how to identify. That's the same thing we're going to do here. Next week I'm going to talk about that. You know, what gets their motor running. But interesting enough, she came back, she goes, well, I even took this to my family and they didn't agree with it. Of course they didn't. They're telling you everything you want to hear, you scare them. Okay? So, and then I finally just said, have your kids ever said to you, Mom, are you okay? Just out of the blue? And you should have saw her face then. She was like, they do it all the time. And then I told them about a story of an executive that I had in a class. And about 2 weeks earlier, 3 weeks earlier, his son, who is 8 or 9 years old, in the classroom had wrote down that he didn't think his dad loved him. And he got called into school. They thought maybe he was neglecting him, the child. So he went in there and he was like, I love my child. And they brought whatever his son's name was, he brought him in and he basically said, but Dad, you never smile. You're never happy. He had to go home and go practice smiling in the mirror. C's aren't even aware that they're not. But once you have the information, it's your responsibility. It's not everybody else's job to adjust to you. It's your job to adjust to others if you truly want to connect and have positive influence in your community. So those are very extreme examples, but when you look at, so I'll tell you, my husband and I are exact opposite. So I am a D.I. high. I have no S. Now that doesn't mean I don't care about people, because back in the day, there's a Christian one that's sanguine. I'm all about people. That's why I'm here. But what makes me great at being a coach and being able to do programs is I'm going to teach this to you, but it's not on me whether or not you use it or not. I can detach myself from somebody's here, look at, somebody's here and going to come in. That's the doorbell. Somebody is trying to learn some more. They're here, but we're going to keep going. So we have my husband and I are the exact opposite. So D.I., I have no S in this assessment. Doesn't mean I don't care about people. It just means I can detach myself. I'm going to teach you, but it's on you whether or not you use it or not. So when I coach people, I'm going to guide you, coach you. But if you don't go do it, that's not on me. That's on you. S's tend to be like, why? Why aren't you doing it? Here, let me help you. They'll tend to go do it for them. So that's why a lot of parents who are S's end up doing the projects for the kids, and the kids don't learn anything because they want them to get it done. They don't want the teacher to think bad of them. Oh, I'm trying to help. I'm supporting you. And it's not the right thing to do. You're not teaching them. That's more about you than it is them. We have there's another lady I can think of. She wants everybody in the Sunday school class to get together. She doesn't want it to break up. We're growing. I just want all 800 people in the same room. We're like, that's not feasible. We have to break it up. And she just can't understand that. That's a high, high S. So my husband, I'm a DI, he's an SC. Used to drive me insane that I would say, let's go to lunch and you make the decision. And then he would go, well, where do you want to go? Used to drive me, he can't make those decisions. That's not who he is. He's a supportive type. And he was in the Army, he was a sniper. But if you think about, what's the movie? Blindside with Sandra Bullock. Michael Kor, or whatever his name was, Michael. She went in there, she goes, he was an S, but yet he was a defensive player. He couldn't tackle people, but as soon as she said, these are your family, you protect them at all costs. I mean, he was one of the best. He was an S. So it doesn't mean they don't have that in them, determination. It's why they do it. I would do it because I want to get things done, and S wants to do it because they want to make sure everybody's safe and happy. So we have the D, the I, the S, and the C. Which one are you? And here's a quick, easy way. D's and I's are outgoing. C's and S are more reserved. So are you outgoing or reserved? I and S's are more people-focused, and D's and C's are more task and detail-focused. So which one are you? Join me after the break, and I'm going to tell you about next week. You're not going to want to miss it. So, D-I-S-C, which one do you think you are? And if you want more information on this, you always can contact me at Shari, S-H-A-R-I, at strongorganization.com. But the bottom line is once you have this information, you figure out who you are, it's easier to connect with other people. And next week, you're not going to want to miss it. Because when you come back, we talked about you this week. Next week, we're going to talk about what makes their motor run, so to speak. You know, like a D and an I, it's and an S and a C, it's kind of like and if they get excited, they go So that's what we're going to talk about next week. You're not going to want to miss it because you're going to identify it in your family first and then the people you work with. So this has been Shari Strong. Lead, follow, get out of the way, and thank you for being you.